Well, it's Saturday and we got flown in by Arrowhead Outfitters. We're roughly 60 miles in from base camp and about 130, 140 miles from Prudhoe Bay. And I think it's rained 25 of the last 24 hours of the day. And it's down to just a small mist of rain now. But we did have a small dry spell there about 90 minutes when we got dropped off by the float plane and was able to set up the tent. So that actually was great to see, because we were able to keep everything dry until we get the tent set up, and then it just downpoured for the next couple hours. So, but so far we're dry, and we just took a little half to 3/4 mile scouting trip. Didn't see any caribou, but we did see a couple on the fly-in, in addition to seeing one grizzly on the way in. So that was kind of cool to see. So he was back probably 10-15 miles. So hopefully he stays on his end of the spectrum, and we'll stay on ours. So tomorrow's the first day we can hunt, so we're going to head out. We found a glassing knob about half a mile. We're going to set up there and glass most of the day, and if it's not panning out, we've got a couple other knolls we're going to hike over to. They're probably between half and 3/4 of a mile away, so we can see in the folds and rolls of the land and see what we can turn up. This is the lake that we landed on this morning, and you can see the terrain looks a lot like antelope country, with the exception of all these tussocks, which makes it extremely difficult to walk. But you hear that so much that it gets built up in your mind that it's not nearly as bad as what I was led to believe. But I guess I've got fresh legs and a positive perspective at this point, so check with me in a couple of days and see how I feel. Jeff's out burying our trash. We buried about 100 yards from camp under the tussocks, all sealed up. And then about another 50 yards to the right, we've cached some of our dry bags, all with sealed food inside the rolled up dry bags. It's about 10 p.m. Sunday evening, and we had a pretty good day. We saw about a dozen cow caribou this morning. One super nice bull, probably 2 miles off. We think we may have spotted him again tonight. And there was two mid-sized bulls. They looked decent, but quite honestly, they were out 600-700 yards, too far for an ethical shot. But then we did quite a bit of scouting today. We probably put about 4 miles on our boots. Felt like about 10 trying to walk in these tussocks. And we had quite a bit of rain and wind this morning, and then that finally subsided and ended up being a pretty decent afternoon. But it feels like it's starting to rain again now. So that's been the theme here in Alaska, is rain, rain, and more rain. But we saw two different groups, one to the south about 2 miles, and another group to the north, maybe 2.5 miles. So we're hoping maybe they stay in the area tonight, and then we're going to get up early tomorrow, probably about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and see if we can't beat feet through these tussocks, get up there in one of these groups, and see if we can't get within about 300-400 yards. Trying to get a shot any further than that in this stuff is pretty difficult, so it's just hard trying to get set up, get a rest. Everything's a different elevation between your feet, your chest, or if you're sitting down, your bipod, so a little bit challenging. We're having a tough time getting on them here too, but like I say, we've been spotting now for 2 days. We found a couple groups, just nothing close enough that we could actually get close enough and get a shot at. So seems like it's a lot like antelope hunting, to be honest with you. This kind of looks a lot like Wyoming, except for the tussocks are here instead of the sagebrush. I'll take the sagebrush any day. But tomorrow will be day 3, and we're going to get after it. Well, it's the end of day 3 on the tundra, day 5 in Alaska, and we finally got a little sunshine today for the first time since we've been in this glorious state. The sun came out about 6 p.m., but that wasn't before we had 14 hours of straight rain. So this place is already a swamp. You're hiking over tussocks and post-holing, going through across these tundras, and everything up as high as your waist was wet at that point. So pretty miserable morning. The night wasn't real great, but we did manage to stay relatively dry for the most part. So we did plan pretty good and try to play it safe in that regard. So got out about noon, 1 o'clock, and I think through the course of the day we spotted about a dozen caribou. Nothing close. Only one was identifiable as a bull. I think the closest one may have been about 1.5 miles. Everything else is 3 to 4 miles away as we're pulling them up in the glass. Broke the spotting scope out tonight, was checking some snow packed peaks here in the distance. They've got to be 25 to 35 miles away or more, I'm assuming, but it's kind of cool to pull that up. Took some phone scope photos of those. So we've actually got a pretty nice evening. It looks really nice. We saw a rainbow earlier this afternoon. Water looks good. A lot of ducks and geese flying around. So kind of boosts your spirits a little bit after sitting through 5 days of rain. But it's deceiving out here trying to move around. But we are managing. We're hopeful and optimistic. So we've got a few ideas we're going to try tomorrow, and hopefully we can find us a caribou or two. And Jeff's got a wolf tag as well, so it'd be great to fill that while we're here. So we both got fishing poles, but as cold as it's been, and I think it feels like it's in the upper 30s, low 40s right now, even with the sun out. There's a chill in this air, so it's going to be a cool night. But like I was saying, we got fishing tackle, but we just haven't been up to want to do any fishing. It's been raining. We're trying to find caribou. That water is ice cold. So speaking of water, having a few minor issues with water filters. The water's not flowing like we'd like it to, but so we're getting a lot of gunk in the filters, so we're trying to keep them cleaned out. We got some water pumped last night, should last us the next day and a half, so and then we'll give it another go. But it's a time-consuming process, taking much longer than it should. Should be able to fill a couple gallons up in maybe 20 minutes, and I think it took us about an hour last night. So, but we've still got plenty of water, plenty of food, and plenty of dry clothes. So wake up early tomorrow and we'll get after it. Well, it's the morning of day 4 on the tundra, and we finished yesterday with some sunshine, but the rain moved in overnight and it did taper off, and it looks like we've got some mean clouds rolling back in again here this morning. It's about 7 a.m. and we've been kind of waiting out to see what's going to happen, but the wind keeps changing and the clouds keep moving, so I think we're just going to bust out over that knob out there, find us another glassing point, set up the tripod and spotting scope, and see what we can locate.
doing your commentary from within there?
Not yet. We could start off with, we had, we're up to about 3 hours of rain. The first 2 hours was 40-mile-an-hour winds and torrential downpour. We're holding down the tent, thinking this was more of a survival experiment than a hunt. Here it is. Two down. Jeff just shot a nice caribou at 600 yards. I popped one after that at 550. And they're roughly, what do you think, maybe a third of a mile?
Probably.
Away. Based on those, we're hoping that's all it is, based on the range we're able to get.
The work begins.
Yeah, and we've got probably, from when we get them, we got to find them in this swamp out here. We do see one horn up, but we probably got a 3/4 of a mile hike back to camp.
0.85 the GPS last night.
And it's through nothing but swamp, so at least it's not raining right now. This is probably the longest stint we've gone without rain since we've been in Alaska there on last Thursday. So I wasn't sure we were going to be able to get it done, to be honest with you, in these conditions, but we made it happen. Congratulations, buddy.
Praise God.
That's absolutely.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my share of bad kicks in my face, but I've come through. I need to go on.
Well, the sun's finally come out. It's been sun shining now here for about 5 hours. I think this is the longest stint without rain. Just finished quartering my caribou, and as you can see, that's the last 2 bags. I've got a front and a rear in one bag, and tenderloins and back straps in the other bag, and then I've got my backpack and antlers sitting right there on the knoll. It's probably about 250 yards up on the other side of those trees that you see in the distance, and drop down over there about 50 yards, and we can just see camp. It's, according to the GPS last night, from that point, I believe it's about 700 to 800 yards, but we had a hard time getting a reading, so it looks to be a little further than that, to be honest with you, which I'm not real happy about. But hey, it is what it is. We got a caribou down. We got 2 caribou down, and tomorrow's Jeff's birthday, so what a way to celebrate. So right now it is 7:15. I figure we'll get these loaded up here. We'll get them back up to the top of the hill. Jeff's got divided his bags up a little differently. He's trying to carry a little smaller loads. I'll have 2 loads. Jeff's going to have 3. So I might go back to camp, maybe try to get water. Well, you're either climbing over tussocks, getting stuck in them little ditches in between them, which are full of water, or you're just walking through a swamp. The only good news today, being day 5, is it's not raining for the first time. But I figured that could change soon, but it looks like we'll at least get this last load of meat and rack that we have to shade at the halfway point back to camp. Jeff and I started planning our Alaskan adventure back in 2021 when we encountered an issue with the now defunct outfitter. Fast forward 2 years, we finally made our dream a reality. Unfortunately for us, the rain started before we reached Alaska and never stopped longer than an hour for nearly 8 days. This made it nearly impossible to use good filming equipment, and much of the trip was recorded on an iPhone. After flying from Pittsburgh to Fairbanks, we'd finally made it, but our travel was only beginning. After securing a U-Haul truck from a dealership near the airport, we set out cautiously up the famous Alaska Haul Road, which is depicted in the TV series Ice Road Truckers. After 12 hours, we reached Prudhoe Bay, where we spent the night at a makeshift campground. Once the clouds cleared and the fog lifted, we were flown into the tundra. The tundra had received more rain than it had in the previous 20 years. This made for swampy conditions underfoot while enduring a near constant rain from above. To put it into perspective, our sleeping cots were a mere 6 inches above standing water. 3 days in, a bad storm came across the tundra, forcing other hunters to abandon camp and radio for flyouts when weather allowed. There were also a number of grizzly issues, forcing other hunters to terminate their hunts. After we were flown back to Lake Desiree, we wasted no time driving back down the haul road, as we only had a few hours before the road was to be closed to all traffic due to needed repairs and more incoming bad weather. That bad weather turned a 12-hour drive into 16 hours in the darkest, rainiest conditions I've ever encountered. Once back in Fairbanks, we purchased totes and packaging materials and processed and froze the meat for the return trip home. This trip was as much mental as it was physical due to the constant horrible weather. Success can be a burden, but ever so sweet. You've just got to keep a positive attitude, remain persistent, and keep grinding. As John Merwin said, this world is a big place and I want to have a look at it before it gets dark. So get out there and make it happen. Some days the cheap seats of life, so step up to the front row.
He's heard the call of the wild. He's heard the call of the wild.
And remember, keep your nose in the wind and your eye on the skyline.